Today I've got the VanTrue on-dash X2 Dashcam.
NTP is everywhere. It's not, as I said, not very sexy. People don't talk about it. It's a workhorse. But if this had been found and exploited, it could have brought down time, the end of time.
I've been using VanTrue dash cams now for about a year, and I've got a couple different models. This is the new X2, and let me show it to you a little bit better. On the top here you've got several buttons, and I'll go over what those are. On the side you've got a place for an SD card. An SD card was not included on mine. On the bottom you have power and HDMI. And on the side you have more buttons. On the back you have a screen, fairly large screen. The camera is decent sized. It's roughly the size of a playing card, which I don't have with me and I should have brought. In comparison, the X2's on top, and what I had been using was the R2, and it's on the bottom here. And it is a bigger camera. The lens itself on the X2 looks larger. However, I think they're fairly similar in performance. This is a lot of bezel around it on the X2. But the screens are actually of similar size when you compare them. It's just a different form factor. The buttons are located in different places, things like that. So a couple things that you should know about the X2. It's got the Umbrella A12 processor and 2560 by 1440p resolution. This is close to 2K, not quite I believe, but pretty close. It does have HDR, high dynamic range, and this is nice for just normal life. You've got a lot of times where the sky is bright or overcast, and the car in front of you that you want to capture the license plate of is darker colored. So to capture that wide exposure difference, you've got the HDR. The camera saves in H.264 format, which is a current update format, nice compression size. It will take 16 megapixel photos. The screen is 2.7 inches. It will play back in HDMI. It's 30 frames per second. Here on the side, the other side, it will support up to a 64 gigabyte micro SD card. The lens has a wide aperture of f1.8. It does have a G sensor. The continuous recording is nice. What it means is the flash card in the dashcam will never fill up as you are using it. The oldest files get overridden. So if you do have an event that you want to save, say a car crash or just something crazy you see on the road, it'd be best to turn off the camera and download the footage to your computer as soon as possible. It's got auto power on and off. It does have a G sensor, so what that means is if you go for a big bump or were to say get rear-ended, the camera will make that a separate event, make it a separate file. It does have a parking mode, which I don't use. Main reason is the camera auto powers off, so you'd have to switch the power inputs on the camera. The camera does have a small battery inside, but it's pretty small and wouldn't be good for very long-term recording. I wanted to show you how I use this dash cam in the car a little bit. So I'm parked in my driveway, and normally I have the dash cam mounted up higher so it's almost completely hidden underneath the rear view mirror. However, that won't work very well for this video, so I mounted it a bit lower. But let me zoom in here and show you. Below I usually have the electricity that plugs into it via USB. Routed just in front of the camera. It won't show on the lens, but it'll come down and plug right into my cigarette lighter. The included cable is the correct length for my car, and I think would work for most. Most cars have a power source below the center line of the car for GPS, dash cams, and other things, and my car is that way as well. As you can see, when it's recording, you get a blue and red LED on the side, and the screen is configurable to shut off. I have mine in the default right now, which I think is after about 4 or 5 minutes it shuts off. Still records and notates that by the blue and the red LEDs there. So a couple things about the buttons here, as it focuses. So on the first one here is the start-stop recording. The second one is enter-exit menu mode. The third one is power on-off if you hold it for 3 seconds. I think that's kind of a little bit odd, just where it's at. Usually power's on one of the sides. And it does have a LED indicator right here that you can't see when it's not powered on, but it does flash red when it's on, and I'll go over that more in here a second. And the other button here is your snapshot mode. So if you saw a pretty sunset or something you wanted to save, that's how. On the other end here, you have the back button for recording, and this is next. And there is a reset button here on the front if the camera were to freeze or something like that. A few accessories that are included. You get this windshield mount, and it's a suction cup. And the USB plugs in here, and it locks and unlocks. And as it locks, it forms a more of a better vacuum there. And it docks in here the front, just like this, clips in place. And once it's in there, it's a really secure connection. This tab will allow you to release it, and it works pretty good. This is like the R2 mount, which I believe will also fit on this camera. It will. So if you have either, you don't have to change the mount on your dashboard. You can easily switch out the cameras. Also included in the box, warranty card, and underneath you have a car charger, which has a very long cable. It does have a USB pass-through here. This is not a fast charge charger or anything like that, which is why I don't use it. I have my own 2-port fast charge charger that I use. But it does have a very long wire, so you could say run this around the outside of your edge so you don't have a cable dangling in the middle of your windshield if you wanted to. And it also comes with a shorter USB cable. And that brings up my next point. My chief complaint with the VanTrue dash cams are that they use mini USB. The mini USB standard is pretty old. I remember the cell phone I had 10 years ago had mini USB. It's been replaced at this point by micro USB for at least the past 5 years. And it's really being replaced now by USB-C. Although USB-C is in its infancy, it would be nice to see on a project released at the end of 2016 going into 2017. All your devices are going to use it. All your Android devices use it. And I wouldn't be surprised if you even see the Apple iPhone going to a USB-C, given the direction they've gone with their new laptops only having USB-C connections. It's pretty clear that the USB-C port is going to rule the future. Now, the mini USB that this camera has isn't a technological drawback other than it's old-fashioned. It works perfectly fine here for power and speed if you were to download this and plug this into your computer. It would be the same as micro USB, or, well, I guess USB-C would have more power and faster data if you needed those on a dash cam like this. You really don't, but in my opinion, it's something that a product should be transitioning to. What it means is now you have one cable in your car that will plug into nothing else. To me, it's just backwards, and it's something that I hope VanTrue fixes on future models.
So in other words, somebody has I've seen these fake accounts.
But he's saying that
you can find them.
Sure, there's fake accounts. But he's saying the botnets are really amplifying.
Yeah,
stories.
I've seen these fake accounts that are supposedly amplifying anything. They got 7 followers.
If all that sort of stuff got. Wait a minute.
Okay, hold. Stop.
I know. I would say
false. This stuff about her. So, in other words, when we all witness her pretty much pass.
So what I'm going to do here, I've got my USB plugged into a power bank underneath the table, and I'm going to plug it in and show you what the camera's like. So it plays a chime every time that it comes on, shows you that it's charging here in the corner. And my table isn't very interesting, but you've got different buttons here. I really like that the text for the date and timestamp is very small down here in the corner. It's just nice. Shows you the resolution you're recording in, that you're in continuous mode. As you can see here, the wide angle, the lens is a very, very wide angle. I can put my hand down, you can start to see it come up on the screen. I mean, it's very, very wide angle. The distortion is, I'd call, fairly low for a lens that's so wide, and I think that's nice. So what I did was I toggled into the menu here, and this is probably hard to see. Let me see if I can dial down on the camera. That's a little bit better. I'm not going to go through the entire menu here, but I'm just going to show you a few things. So you've got these 4 icons. You've got recorder setup, files to play back, and I honestly find playback difficult on the unit. My advice would be to take the card out, plug it into your computer, or plug the camera into your computer and play back files that way. It's way, way easier. GPS setup. I believe these have external GPSs you can install and enable. I do not have one of those, so I haven't read much into it. System setup is where you can do the time, reset, format the card, change your language, things like that. And record setup, I think, is where you'll spend most of your time. So I've clicked into it. Once you have this set up, I don't find myself using it much. So inside resolution, you have all the different options, and I'm using the up and down buttons on the left-hand side. HDR is not available in all the settings, so I'm just going to choose this one, 2560 by 1440. One other thing I wanted to note here, while recording, there is an LED here. And it's hard to see on the camera because of the white balance, but it goes, it flashes blue. I find this somewhat annoying. It is, I don't want something in my dashboard that flashes blue and red. And this does. It just reminds you of the police, so I'd rather have this not flash blue and red. I'd prefer it just be red or blue or white or some other color. Overall, I like the VanTrue X2 Dashcam. I think it'll be my new Dashcam because the sensor on it is better. It's just a little bit, it's better than the R2 in my opinion, as far as resolution and its ability to adapt. And as you can see from the footage that I've used here, it's higher quality. For me, I don't live in Russia. I'm not super concerned about what I see on the road, but it is kind of nice to have that dash cam there just in case. I mount mine high behind the rear view window. I mount mine high behind the rear view mirror. It hides almost perfectly. I think this way it's less likely that someone mischievous will see it and want to break down my windows and steal the camera. Honestly, I'd be more concerned about the broken window than I would be the camera. The camera is easy to replace. The window is much more expensive to replace and a pain in the butt. So if you do live in an area where you're concerned about possible theft, A dash cam, I think, does increase your likelihood of theft just because it is something of value in your car that a thief can see. So I'd recommend taking it down, putting it in the glove box or something like that. But if you live in an area where you're not concerned about this or just want one up all the time, I think it's a great choice. And I would recommend it. Please like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.